Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Angel Aliano, he, him, and I'm the Policy and Advocacy Fellow with the Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits. Welcome to the SVCN and Choose Children, Thriving Children and Families Candidate Forum. Today, we're joined by 4 candidates for the District 5 seat of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors. Today, we'll hear these candidates' views on issues that directly impact children and families. If possible, we do encourage all audience members to have their cameras on and to please make sure that your microphones remain muted throughout the forum. As an organization, SVCN hosts these candidate fora to provide nonprofit leaders with the opportunity to learn more about the ideas, the visions, and priorities of candidates for local office. We focus our discussion on issues that impact nonprofits as partners, government contractors, community-based service providers, and advocates. So before we get started, we'd love to learn really quickly who is in the room with us. So please begin by introducing yourselves in the chat with your name, your pronouns, your title and organization, as well as the native land that you reside on. As a continuing SVCN practice, I do want to acknowledge that in San Jose, where I'm located today, I currently reside on the unceded lands of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. Together, let us commit to educating ourselves and advocating for Indigenous peoples, who are communities that have been neglected and displaced by the US government and other colonial powers across the world. Since people here are tuning in from a few different areas, I encourage you to learn about what land you're living on by using the website that my colleague has shared in the chat slightly above. For accessibility purposes, we do have the automated closed captioning feature in Zoom activated. With this, you have the ability to move the captions around on your screen to a more convenient area, or you can just disable them altogether if you prefer not to have the captions. To do so, please reference the bar at the bottom of your screen, click on Live Transcript on the right-hand side, and then click Hide Subtitles. And if you are having any other tech challenges during the session, please feel free to private message me or anybody, any of my SVCN colleagues during the forum in the chat. And of course, it's important for me to take a minute to thank our wonderful co-hosts and partners who made today's forum possible. First, I'd like to thank our primary sponsor, Choose Children. I'd also like to give a special shout out and a thank you to our partners, AXA, the African American Community Service Agency, Rail Family Services, First Five, and Kids in Common, along with Project Safety Net, Somos Mayfair, Strong Start, and the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. All of them have been absolutely wonderful, and we could not have done this without them. I'm going to pass it to our co-host and sponsor from Choose Children, Christine Thorstensen, who will be sharing brief remarks about Choose Children and why intentional spaces like today's forum are so crucial to have.
Thank you so much. I'm Christine Thorstensen, as Angel mentioned, and on behalf of Choose Children and Silicon Valley Community Foundation, we want to welcome you all to today's candidate forum. And I'd like to take a moment to just thank the great team at Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits for all you have done to put this forum together. And we really are honored to collaborate with SVCN and our many partners on this event. And thank you to our moderator for today, Lauren Martinez. And a really special thank you to our candidates for Santa Clara County District 5 Supervisor for joining us this afternoon and engaging in conversation on key issues for children and families in our county. Choose Children, a nonpartisan and non-endorsing initiative of Silicon Valley Community Foundation, is a partnership of organizations committed to creating a bright future in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties for children and families. We work to champion babies, toddlers, preschoolers, and we take the opportunity provided by an election to elevate issues important to our young children, their families, and caregivers. Our kids need us. We have a responsibility to ensure that young children begin their lives healthy, safe, and ready to succeed in school and life. And we need our kids even more. The economic vibrancy of our region relies on making it a place where families with young children see a future for themselves. But many of our families are struggling. The high cost of living and raising children in this county means that our families are making tough lifestyle and financial choices. The recent Choose Children voter survey found that a majority of voters with children reported delaying and decreasing retirement savings, reducing essential spending, and using emergency savings in order to afford childcare. 2 in 5 accrued credit card debt, and 1/3 reported having to ask family and friends for financial support. Surveyed voters reported changing jobs, delaying having another child, or being unable to take a job due to childcare issues. But the survey also highlighted that voters want candidates for local office to prioritize children and come to the table with meaningful solutions that will make Santa Clara County a place where children and families can have a vibrant future. When we work together to ensure young children and their families are supported, the impacts are far-reaching and long-lasting. We see better educational and career outcomes for our next generation, greater economic security and mobility for our early care workforce and their families, and a robust and just local economy. So we are really looking forward to today's discussion. Thank you all for joining us, and I turn it back over.
Great. Thanks so much, Christina. I really appreciate that. Moving us right along, I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's forum. Everybody please welcome Lauren Martinez, a general assignment reporter for Disney and ABC-owned and operated station KGO. Based in the South Bay, Martinez covers a range of stories, including the childcare crisis in Santa Clara County. She's there to highlight not only the flaws in the system, but the efforts being made to create equitable care and positive change for young children and families. So without further ado, I'll pass it to Lauren.
Thank you, Angel. Welcome, candidates, and thank you to everyone for thinking of me to being a part of this. I report on these issues, so I'm really excited to hear what you all have to say. I will be explaining the ground rules and the timing of today's format. Audience members, we ask that you remain on mute while the candidates are speaking throughout the forum. Candidates, you will each have 1 minute and 30 seconds for opening statements. Afterwards, I'll be asking a series of both sponsor submitted and audience pre-submitted questions. You both will have up to 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer each question. For the convenience of the candidates and our audience members tuning in, we will also be dropping the questions in the chat live time as they are asked. During the forum, we will be including a lightning round of questions, which will be a mixture of fun topics that will require a yes or no answer or a response of 1 sentence or less. After asking a few more questions, we will finish up by having each candidate share their closing statements, which will again be 1 minute and 30 seconds. Throughout the forum, candidates will be speaking on a rotating basis to ensure that each candidate has a fair opportunity to speak first, last, and any spot in between. Audience members, you have some options for how to view your screen. If you want to only view the speakers, you can leave the setting as is. If the shared screen with our timer looks too big on your screen, you can toggle the middle line over to the left so the speakers are bigger and the timer is smaller. And one final note to our candidates, please remember to be respectful of both your fellow candidates and of the time allotted with each answer. For your convenience, we will have a timer on the screen so you can visually see how much time you have for each question. All right, with that being said, I'd like to introduce our candidates, Sandy Sands, Sally Lieber, Barry Chang, and Margaret Abe Koga. SVCN has invited all 5 candidates for District 5 Supervisor, and we're happy to have 4 of them joining us today. Welcome, candidates. Thank you for your time. We'd like you to begin by responding to the following prompt as your opening statement. Santa Clara County is an amazing place to grow up with virtually limitless opportunities, but is also one where it is increasingly difficult to raise a family. So we would like to begin this evening by asking, as County Supervisor, what is your vision to make Santa Clara County a place where families with children from all backgrounds and across all income levels can live and thrive? You have 1 minute and 30 seconds for opening statements. We'll start with Sally.
Well, thank you so much. I want to first thank the Community Foundation and the Council of Nonprofits and everyone who's here from all of the county's nonprofit partners. It's really a reflection of the strength of the relationships that the county has with the community. My vision for our county is a county where there is affordable housing at all levels, as well as childcare that is near transit and services. where we have affordable public transit and reduce the commute time that so many families are making to other counties. I would also like to see a county where we address the environmental injustices that exist between our districts and the access to open space and play space for all of the families in our counties. We have a great county, but I know that there is much more that needs to be done and that can be done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sally. Sandy.
Well, yes, thank you so much for putting on this forum, and thanks you for all the nonprofits that are coming here to give a chance to air the issues. I appreciate the time yesterday when you explained the issues. This is great. This is what it takes to improve what we have going on. To go to my vision of what's happening, I find when we talk about the county, we're so often caught up in budgets and money, which of course is fundamental, but the vision goes beyond paying our bills. My vision has to do with community, and that we need to build community. We need a place where families and kids are connected and feel secure. People need to live in a place where they can lean on their neighbors, where they're connected with their neighbors, where family is nearby. People need to live in a place where not only they have a safety net, but they have a personal support net. For example, if you're a new parent, one of the things that happens is you have a baby that cries through the night, and you're a basket case by the morning. You need somebody to lean on, somebody to call up who can say, yeah, that happened to me too, and the kid turned out fine. So I think while government has all these programs that we need to pay for, we also need to have a role in connecting people, bringing people together, creating places where parents can connect with childcare, even if it isn't just somebody who wants to provide childcare. I think it's really important that as a vision for our community, as a vision for our county, that we have community and that we build the community. And I want our county government to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. All right, Barry, you're next.
Okay, thank you very much for the nonprofit coalition to host this event. I have set up a couple of nonprofits before. One of them, the most important one, is the Bay Area for Clean Environment, fight against the Lehigh Southwest cement plant for years, for over 2 decades. So finally, last year they closed their cement manufacturer, which was a public health and a public safety issue, but no one at that time dared to challenge them, but I did, okay? And I set up the nonprofit organization and then forced them to comply with the law and then end up closing it. The children is the most important for us, for our future. So this is a very key issue, but to have a good program, we got to have a good income, for the good revenue for the county, because we are facing the deficit now. So the transportation, the business, because the transportation is not doing well, we would stifle the business development. So we got to focus on business development so we can provide more affordable housing and we can provide more affordable child care. And that's why we need to focus on this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Margaret.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's really an honor to be here. I've had a chance to serve on many nonprofit boards, including CHAC, and worked for ACI, Asian Americans for Community Involvement. So I very much appreciate the work that the nonprofit community does. I was born and raised on the peninsula by immigrant parents, and they spoke limited English. So I was their translator, a typical immigrant story that we hear. And we were also denied healthcare because my dad was a self-employed gardener who with a pre-existing condition and couldn't get insurance. So I saw through my parents' eyes the struggles you have when you don't have a voice in our community. And that's what's compelled me to pursue public service to ensure that everyone has a voice regardless of background. I've raised 2 daughters as a working mom and elected leader, and I experienced firsthand the challenges of finding affordable and quality childcare and had to make hard decisions. I chose to work part-time, raise my girls, serve in elected office, and was also taking care of my elderly parents. So I recognize that everyone has a different set of circumstances, so it's critical to fight for accessible quality childcare to meet the needs of all parents. And I also want to advocate for changes in the traditional work model so women to have more options. As I reflect on my childhood and my daughters, I see progress, but as a woman of color, I know we have a long ways to go in terms of equity and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for your opening statements. We will now move on to our Q&A period with our first question. Margaret, you will be up first. What are your top 3 budget priorities given an expected deficit of 180 to 380 million in Santa Clara County and 38 to 68 billion at the state level?
Well, thank you for the question. I was mayor in 2009 during the Great Recession, and our city faced a budget deficit, which we were able to close, and we've had surpluses since. And I've also been on the VTA board. I was vice chair when we faced a $40 million budget deficit and was tasked to be on the committee to close that, which we were able to do. And we established a reserve fund. So I'm very well versed in budget deficits and feel like I have experience to tackle the counties. First, I'd focus on revenue generation, look at ways that we can come up with new funding sources. In the city, we've used our land and leases and rents are a big part of our general fund revenue now. So I'd look at how we could do similar revenue generating at the county. I'd also bring a more transparent budget process, bringing everyone together and look at what our priorities are, make sure that everyone understands what the budget is, and make the hard choices. And I think we have to do that through transparency and inclusiveness. And then making sure that we maintain our service levels. We have there's a staffing shortage as well at the county, and I want to make sure that we take care of our employees because they are the ones who provide the service that the county provides to the community. Thank you.
Margaret, thank you. Sandy and then Sally.
I have to admit here that on this question, I have my longest answer. I may go over a minute and a half. I'll make up for it on the others and go shorter, or I can move it some of the parts over. So for the budget, my answer is actually at 3 levels, or there's 3 parts to it. The first part of the I do have a number 1 priority. It is on my website, and that's the first 5 years of life. I feel that is just so fundamental. If you don't get people or kids started out on the right step, then that leads to all sorts of problems down the road, unhappiness, and it goes beyond that. It can lead to crime. It can lead to gangs. And so it's even a budget item. It's the best investment it can take. So that's clearly my number 1. But beyond that, I don't think it's up to the supervisor to set priorities and send them down. I think when it comes to budgets, it's more of a process. It's more of working with the different departments, talking with them, finding out what works or where they absolutely need money, where they can cut. And then on top of that, I believe in something called management by walking around. I would go into the departments, talk to the people on the front level, at the ground level, so I'd have an understanding of how that department works and what it needs, and do that prior to talking with the heads. So I'm calibrated as I'm told where money can be taken off and not taken off.
Okay,
The
Sandy,
third part.
just want to make it clear, everyone gets 1:30. So you will have closing statements at the end. So feel free to add anything you weren't able to do before. We'll move on to Sally. Thank you. Sally, I believe you're on mute.
I sure am. Thank you. My priorities are going to be preservation and extension of affordable housing, preservation of healthcare access, including mental health care, and childcare within our county. My second priority is going to be retooling our existing agencies and functions, sunshining the data around the performance of our agencies, and ensuring that the access is there for people in the community and for their advocates. And third, seeking the new revenues and looking specifically at progressive measures like wealth taxes and business taxes to fund our baseline functions within the county.
All right, thank you, Sally. Barry.
Okay, your question is the top 3 priority when we facing the deficit situation. Number 1 is to cut the vacant position that never or is did not get filled. Okay, those positions we should cut it off. So, and then number 2 is cutting the expenses that is not urgent. Those expenses we can hold it, so we don't have to spend the money on it. Okay. Number 3 is we have to focus in the cut situation. We still need to focus on investing in the children for the child care situation and also the child health situation. So that's my 3 solution for the budget situation.
All right, candidates, thank you. On to our next question. Santa Clara County invested heavily in the past to expand behavioral health services in our community, including creating community-based mobile crisis response, opening a new residential treatment center, constructing an inpatient psychiatric facility for youth, and expanding a mental health navigator program. Unfortunately, there are multiple threats to the funding and health of our behavioral health system, including from Proposition 1. What is one key priority that you will pursue to continue to move forward towards a fully responsive county behavioral health system for youth and the greater community? We will start with Barry and then Sally.
Okay, the number 1 is preventing the substance use and overdose. Okay, and then number 2 is enhance the access to a suicide prevention program. So that's the 2 top 1 that I feel that's very important to do it. As I said earlier, we also need to spend more money to expand the child care because it's very important from the beginning of the child, especially the preschooler and then also kindergarten. Get them, give them a good education so they won't get into the drug issue, the drug abuse issue. So that's my key point. Thank you.
Sally, you're next.
Thank you. Well, as you so correctly point out, Proposition 1 is really a threat to our mental health funding in Santa Clara County and in every county. And I've been talking with voters everywhere that I go about it. And most people have said something to the effect of, okay, it's good to know what the actual situation with that is. It looked like something that there might be a problem with, but they just weren't sure. I think that it's really clear that we need flexible, confidential access to both healthcare and mental health care for youth and adults. The confidential access is key for young people. And then I think we have to do more as a county to look at the responsibility of the private sector and what we can do to urge the private sector to preserve the care that's there. Just in this year, I worked with NAMI on the situation relating to the loss of intensive care mental health beds at Mission Oaks. And that should never be a situation that we get in again. We have to watch it like absolute hawks to make sure that we don't lose the private care that's existing within the overall system.
Sally, thank you. Margaret, and then Sandy.
Thank you, Lauren. So mental and behavioral health is a priority of mine because it's personal to me, and that my older daughter has struggled with anxiety, depression, and was diagnosed with ADHD. And it's been a 10-year plus journey, and she's in a good place now. But I realize that the circumstances can always change at any moment. As mayor in 2020, I made youth mental health a priority and engaged myself in going out to learn about what services were available, listening to our youth. We have a youth advisory committee that I worked with, and exploring what role the city could play. And at the same time, we were having the calls for police reform. So myself and city staff began to explore the community emergency response team model. And we were actually able to get funding from our member of Congress, Anna Eshoo, and have been able to place that funding into the trust program in the North County. We have a North County program now. And what I've learned through my experience and my council work is, one, there's a great need for services. Two, we need to get information out so people know where and how to access the help they need. And then there's actually a breadth of services that are currently available. And what I've realized, the key priority is that we need to create a more coordination and a cohesive system where we have CBOs, nonprofits, schools, even the private sector and governmental agencies working together in partnership. Thank you.
Sandy.
Yes, just a moment here. Yes. So when it comes to our behavioral health, we actually have had we had a recent tragedy within the county, and that caused the present county Board of Supervisors to redo the priorities of the front line of the behavioral staff. There were many vacancies, which they have now committed to filling so that we don't have such tragedies again. Now that the rubber comes to the road when it comes to the budget, and they have to put together, they have to stand behind what they say and start filling these vacancies, and that means money comes from other places. So unfortunately, like so many things, it does come down to how are you going to get the funding. And I think that we do need a structural change in how we do funding. I think the county has to be more oriented towards results. I think they have to reward results for the people who do the work, that it's not just an empty lip service. In fact, a concept of results per dollar, I would like to bring in. So there isn't this idea within the county departments that you want to spend all your budget so you can get the next year, that you actually rewarded for getting the most results per dollar. And that's what you get rewarded for, instead of spending the most money. So yes, I think in order to make it work, it has to be enough money.
Okay, thank you. Next question. The economic vibrancy of our region relies on making it a place where families and young children can live and thrive. However, many of our families with young children are struggling and forced to make difficult financial and lifestyle choices. Full-time, center-based childcare, child now averages over $20,000 a year. If you can find it, what is one idea you have to build the capacity of our childcare system and give parents safe and quality childcare options so that they can go to work? We'll start with Sandy.
Yes. So obviously the county only has so many programs they can do. I think to expand our childcare, we do have to reach into the community, reach into our businesses and others, and you can reach for more than money. There are people who, there's a lot of nonprofits. In order to serve it, they need facilities, they need places they can work, do their work. And so I think businesses not only ask for money, but ask for places. And it's the same thing within the county. What facilities do we have? What other tools do we have that we can help people, help the people who want to care for the children? And then some of it is just facilitating a connection. Some of our public libraries have good systems for connecting parents and small-time caregivers, and those can be expanded. So I think the county has a role in facilitating finding those caregivers and hooking them up with the families.
Sandy, thank you. Margaret, and then Barry.
Thank you, Lauren. Well, as you know, or many of you know, Google is one of our major employers in Mountain View. And unfortunately, we heard recently that they were closing their childcare facility. So I realized through that there's only so much that we can count on for the private sector. And in reflection, as I think about the expansion plans that they had and the city's approval of them, we probably we should be looking at things like requiring childcare if you're a company of a certain number or more, child impact fees. Those are really more at the city level. Frankly, it has to do with land use and planning approvals. So at the county, what I've been thinking of is how can the county provide more opportunities, facilities, spaces? I know the county owns quite a bit of land and facilities. Are there ones that we can use to open more childcare centers? And then I think that ties into how the county is one of the largest employer in the county is the county. So it should lead by example and provide childcare for their employees as well. So that would be another area that I would like to explore. Thanks.
Barry, you're next.
Sure. I think the most important is the child care facility. We have to adopt a physical safety standard, including clear sightedness, and then also well-lit spaces, and then make sure that the child is released to trust the adult, and then also set the requirement for the visitor. It cannot let any stranger to come in, because some of the mass shooting to the school is outside intruder. Okay, so when there's no safety, the parent doesn't feel safe. It will be hard. So those standards is very important first. Okay, then we have to encourage the employer to set up the child care center nearby where the office building is. So then the parent can be close to the children, and then also it's good for the employer. I'm sorry to hear Margaret say that Google closed their child care center. So we got to find a solution to find out why, and then make it better. And then so all the employer can provide the child care. That would be the best way to do it.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you. I think some of the really powerful things that the county can do in terms of this is to, one, map all of the possible locations of where childcare could be located, in particular those that are near transit, and start to normalize childcare spaces within affordable housing, and pre-plan for that from the earliest stages. I think that we should also have supports for home childcare providers. These providers are often the most culturally competent places that are within neighborhoods, and yet they lack the capacity for, if the provider needs to bring in substitute teachers or help in promoting their business, help in ensuring that their home is 100% safe for children. And I think that we need greater funding across the board through mechanisms like a wealth tax to make sure that we have quality childcare. It is also the case that the Community Foundation and others should be really sunshining this to local city councils to point out what the gap is within their cities and raising the level of that urgency.
Sally, thank you. Thank you, candidates, for your answers. We are now going to shift over to our lightning round, a series of quick questions. You can answer a yes or a no or a response of one sentence or less. We will start with Sally and alternate between candidates for each question. First question, what is your favorite animated movie? We'll start with Sally, Sandy, Margaret, and then Barry.
Gosh, I don't know. I have a lot of childhood memories of seeing Sleeping Beauty, and I think I'm still traumatized by a few of the scenes in that movie. But some of them were so intensely beautiful, and I have not kept up on all the animated movies that have come out that are really fantastic and that are teaching children about loss and other very difficult circumstances and doing so in a really culturally competent way. So I don't have a favorite, but that's the one that sticks in my mind.
Sandy.
Yeah, I have a very hard time with favorites questions. You know, I remember as a child seeing Bambi and others, and the Disney movies are great. That's about all I can say. I'll pass on.
Not a problem, Margaret, and then Barry.
My daughters and I are big Hayao Miyazaki fans, and so the favorite one of mine is My Neighbor Totoro, just because Totoro is such a cute character, but I think the story has a lot of different lessons in there too.
And Barry, you're next. And Barry, if you don't mind speaking just a touch louder for all of us.
All right, sure. When my children were young, our favorite animated movie is Lion King. We have watched many times. I still, even at this age, I'm still watching it. It's so entertaining.
That's a classic. All right, thank you. All right, what is one of your favorite parks within your district? We'll go Barry, Sandy, Sally, and then Margaret.
The Memorial Park in Cupertino. That's where we at. I've been there almost every day, walking, doing exercise. And there's a lot of facilities, pretty well set up, and I'm very proud of it because I was part of it. I was the mayor in 2016 of Cupertino.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Barry. Sandy.
Yeah, I go into the parks multiple times a week. I guess Hidden Villa is my favorite park, and it's up against Rancho San Antonio, at a corner of it. So I often continue into there, but I love running, and I use so many of the parks.
Sally, then Margaret.
Well, for me, it's kind of a shootout between a lot of different parks. I love Shoreline, and I love connecting to the Bay Trail there and being able to ride my bike up onto the peninsula. Sometimes I ride all the way to downtown Burlingame on the Bay Trail. But I also have a really soft spot for Hidden Villa because of its history of being an open property for all people and the special relationship that it's had with the community.
Thank you. Margaret.
Same here. Shoreline Park is just an amazing place, and I used to run, so I'd run out there from my home. It's about 2 miles and back, and then bike out. And what's so great about it is there's so much wildlife. It's like an oasis in itself, and really a place for respite for us outside of our big busy urbanizing community.
Completely agree. All right, if you had one superpower, what would it be? Margaret and then Barry. You're on mute. You're on mute, Margaret.
Sorry. And then I actually, that's a good question. I have to think about. I think it would be being able to expand time.
It's a great one.
Enough time for to do.
Affordable housing for all people. That's one of my dreams.
All right, Sally, then Sandy.
Yeah, I'm kind of on Barry's wavelength right now. I have a lot of refugee and immigrant friends that I help, and so often I think if I had a big gingerbread house and I could take a lot of people in and really help them a lot, that would be something that would be very meaningful to me.
Sandy.
Mine would be super persuasion. I see this country, I see all the division in it, I see all the different ways we go different ways. And I would want to have the persuasion, and hand in hand with that goes trust, to try to bring people together, to try to get common paths to solving our problems.
All right, last lightning round question. What is your favorite children's book, either from your own childhood or one you like to read to children today? We'll start with Sandy and then Barry.
Oh no. Favorite children's book. Well, Alice in Wonderland really kind of opens your mind if you look at that. It you know, you would never think of any of those things without the book. It isn't a variation of what you normally think. It really makes you look at things a different way.
Thank you, Barry.
Bambi.
Okay. Margaret and then Sally.
Name of the book just I forgot it, but it's by Alan Say, and it's a story about someone whose grandfather, it's about his story coming from Japan to the United States and then going back. So I read it to my girls. I read it to my girls when they were younger. I'll look it up and let you know what the title is.
Sounds good, Sally.
Well, I'd have to say The Cat in the Hat, because growing up, my brother's name is George, and the kids that let the cat come into the house were George and Sally. And then all the mayhem happened from that. And I actually do book drives. I've had my book drive going since 2006 for the women's prisons and juvenile hall. And the one thing that cuts through everything is Dr. Seuss.
Thank you. All right, awesome questions. Thank you all for participating in that. Back to the Q&A. A critical component of advancing racial justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion is involving in leadership and decision-making individuals with lived experience of racial inequity, justice system involvement, disability-based discrimination, and other harms. If elected, how would you incorporate community voices, including those of youth, in your decisions regarding policies, programs, and initiatives that directly impact children and families? We'll start with Sally and then Barry.
Yeah, I think this is something that we have to put a high priority on, reaching out to people where they are, not where we necessarily want to have them come to offer the input, but really reaching out and listening to people's stories with an open heart and an open mind. During the really active phase of the Black Lives Matter movement, I attended over 20 actions, and it really both informed me and touched my heart and led to forming relationships with a lot of people that I didn't have that strong connection with before. In North County, there is a Latino community that can feel very isolated. And I've formed a lot of relationships just by listening there over time, and surfacing people's concerns in a very respectful way and treating them as important to talk to about issues like budget, about the things that they see in the community. I think youth are just an absolute wealth of information as well.
Thank you, Sally. Barry.
I think the most important, especially at this time, in this moment in the United States, the leader has to be honest and integrity and also fairness to all. I mean, we look at the country so divisive now because those who are running for president is making all kind of fake news. Okay, and a whole bunch of people follow it. And I cannot believe it. They're all well educated. Okay, like one of the Republican candidate went to Harvard, and what he was what he was talking about is nonsense, totally nonsense. And then unless all the leaders have a clear sense of what is right, what is wrong, and then what is fair and what is just, otherwise we cannot solve this problem. So the leadership position is very important. So the voter has to be very careful who you are voting for. Okay, and a lot of them is coming down from the leader. And if we want to have a country, or we want to have a democracy, this election, the coming election, is very, very important. Thank you.
Barry, thank you. Sandy, and then Margaret. Think you're on mute, Sandy?
Yes, thank you. I think we have a great example to follow. Joe Simidian was great at getting out into talking to people. He would set up events where the people were, where they wouldn't have to make an appointment. They could just come up and talk to him. So I would want to follow in his footsteps and his example of getting out to the community, making a very low threshold for somebody to talk to me. The other pieces of that is, I think you have to have a good communication with the nonprofits, because they actually know what's happening to children, especially the children who are too small to articulate things. So listening to the nonprofits that work with children, I think, are key. And then the last piece of it is that you need to have an absolutely open mind. When you hear something that doesn't make sense, you have to stop and pause and think about it and try to think of it from their side. I think the most important thing for myself is to keep an absolutely open, inquisitive mind at all times, so you can really hear what people are saying. That would be, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Margaret.
Thank you, Lauren. This goes back to one of my core values as I shared my background and the concept of making sure everyone has a voice in our community, regardless of background. And my first foray into local government was as a youth advisory commissioner in San Mateo. So I very much value the voice of youth, and we were able to elevate our youth, this informal youth advisory group in Mountain View, to a advisory level committee. And so I'm very, really appreciative of our youth voices. I've worked most of my life in trying to empower underrepresented communities, mainly in my AAPI community. I helped with the starting of the Asian Pacific American Leadership Institute at De Anza College. We currently have a group called Asian Women Empowered. So that's been a real core of what my work. I was really proud during the pandemic. We had some ARPA money, and a group of Latino women came to us asking for some funding to be able to provide to the community. And so we were able to provide $1 million for them to distribute to their community members who they thought needed assistance. So I think it's really that, just making sure that everyone, being accessible, making what we do open and approachable to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have a final question and then closing remarks. The housing and affordability crisis continues to disproportionately impact our region's working class families of color. Research shows that displacement and homelessness can impact a child's development, success in school, and their social, mental, and emotional well-being. What strategies and policies can the county implement to address displacement? We'll start with Margaret and then Sandy.
Thank you. There are a number of different strategies that we have implemented in Mountain View, and we can certainly do that at the county level. I think a lot of what we've been able to do, and I'm very proud of the accomplishments we've had here, can be scaled up. For me personally, I have been very much focused on direct financial assistance, and introduced and was able to get approved with my colleagues a guaranteed basic income pilot program. It's $2 million over 2 years, of helping 166 families with children or pregnant women. and we're tracking the data in terms of how they're using the funding. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary, and we're showing good results. And that's what I really want to continue to do. I know the county has a number of GBI programs, and for me, it's really about empowering individuals to be able to make their own decisions. Like, I'm tired, I said this, I'm tired of the patriarchal system that we have. I am all about empowering folks to be able to make their own decisions because they know best how to improve their lives. And then I just want to be able to help provide the tools and the resources for them to be able to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Sandy.
Yes, I feel that to keep people from being displaced, we've been trying a bunch of different programs, and I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel here. There's actually a program, Section 8, which is specifically there to help people that can't make their rent, people who don't have enough money. There's quite a few homeless people that were homeless because they had a gap of $200 or $300 month after month. And there's also an emergency program for Section 8. The problem with it is it's underfunded and it has a huge backlog and waiting list. It's essentially being funded at the federal level. But I think rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and figure out how to do this is a program that works, that just needs to be scaled up and streamlined so it meets all the people who are homeless. We've spent like $17 billion for homelessness, and it's only getting worse. So I think we need to find the solutions that work. There are solutions that work. There are other states that are doing things better than we are. So I think it's a matter of learning from other people, taking the programs we work, and starting to turn around this problem, which has really been vexing for us. Thank you.
Sally, and then Barry.
Thank you. Well, I think that SB 330 at the state level is really the gold standard for addressing housing displacement. When I came onto City Council in Mountain View, one of my really motivating factors to get there was the massive amount of displacement, specifically of Latino families that we had in Mountain View. And that has to be looked at. It has been in Mountain View with our own anti-displacement measures, but having the backup of SB 330 is so important, and we should have the county supporting good programs like that. I want to acknowledge that we are way behind on housing for people leaving domestic violence situations, and that we are way behind on shelter for families that are displaced. As of the beginning of this week, the county is just contacting people that got on the shelter waiting list in October. And so there's nowhere to put families that are waiting now. And I think we need more of a diversity of service providers in the post-homelessness housing arena.
Thank you, Sally. Barry.
The 3 key issues we have to do. Number 1, we have to produce enough housing. Number 2, we have to preservation of the affordable housing policy, or the number. Okay. And number 3 is protection of their tenants, the existing resident, so they don't get illegally evicted. Okay. I want to say about especially the production, okay, of the housing. Without enough housing, you always have a problem. Okay. So when I was the mayor in 2016, my policy, my strategy is always provide a good housing for everybody. And then even most people know Cupertino has the anti-development issue, and then the anti-development group even posted at their on their website, and then say that they want to see my body hanging on the tree, and then my body is dangling in the wind. So which is very, very racially motivated, and then very, very bad. Okay. But even with that kind of threat, I'm still push it for the Barco project to go through it. Unfortunately, it was deleted by the new council. but it's just we have to focus, number one, produce enough housing, and then the leader has to have the courage to do it.
Thank you, candidates. That was our last question. Now candidates will have 1 minute each to say their closing remarks. We will start with Margaret.
Thank you again to everyone for this opportunity to chat with you all. Grandfather's Journey is the name of the book that we were going through the lightning round by Alan Say. Thank you, Nadim. I saw it in the chat box, but I just wasn't able to share my vision in the opening. And so I wanted to do that first. This is where my vision is for Santa Clara County to be a place where everyone, again, regardless of background, can live with a roof over their heads, food to eat, clothing to wear, and having mental health and behavioral health access to healthcare, where young people have positive role models and adult role models, have a strong peer group, and have access really to whatever resources they need to have a bright future. And that's why I'm running for county supervisor. I believe I have the experience, the lived experience, the policy experience, and the relationships to be able to make this a better place for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. We'll go on to Barry.
Want to thank the organization hosting it. The reason I'm running is I want to see Santa Clara County continue to be the Silicon Valley of the world, in the center of the world. Keep it prosper and keep vibrant. The way to keep it prosper, we have to deal with the traffic congestion problem, because if we don't solve the traffic situation, business development will be hard for them to do. So that's the number one. We have to focus on solving the traffic congestion, give business more opportunity to develop themselves, and then be fair to everybody and stand up to all the fake news and do what is right for you, for us, and then for the children in the future. And as I said, children is our future. We have to focus on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. We'll do Sally and then Sandy.
Well, thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for spending part of your afternoon with us, and I hope that you will stay in touch. You can send me a message through my website, and I promise to get right back to you. I really value the information that comes from our nonprofits, and it's one of the real success stories and strengths of our county. In running for this office, I can commit to you that I'm going to be open and transparent about what's not working for our county. Sometimes as people who are running for office and policymakers, we want to trumpet something as a success, even if it hasn't been for people who are in the community. And I ask a lot of questions. And if you have information for me, I would really value having that, because I'm going to continue to ask those tough questions and to get to a place where we can serve people the best in our county.
Thank you, Sally. Sandy.
Yeah, as a county supervisor, I see there's two basic roles. One is running the county as efficiently as it can be done. I think that means empowering people on the front line. I think that means more results and accountability. It's making our money go as far as we can, because we're constantly up against budget problems. And so I do want to look underneath the hood and try to optimize and fix the way the county works. The other side, of course, is to be a leader to help to inspire people of what's possible to make a community. You know, we're only as strong as the people in our community. We're only as strong as the bonds we make and the friendships we make and the support that we give each other. And so I think it's key to be a leader for those things too. It might be facilitating things here and there. It might be just what you say. It might be showing acceptance to all people, no matter where they're coming from. But to create that community is key. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all the candidates for your time and thoughtful answers and your participation. I will pass it on to Angel to close out. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Candidates, thank you so much for joining us again today. We really appreciate you sharing your plans to support children and families in Santa Clara County. And of course, another special shout out to our amazing moderator, Lauren, who has been absolutely wonderful at moderating today's forum. Thank you so much, Lauren. All of your time is very much appreciated, folks, and we're very happy to have you all join us. Once again, thank you to all of our attendees for making it out today and to our co-sponsors of this forum. Before you go, our team has a few quick and important announcements to share. Keep your eyes in the chat because we'll be dropping some links that you may want to grab. And as a nonprofit association, we do want to be accessible to all of you as best as possible. So please reference the information listed here on this slide if you'd like to contact our team. Your feedback and suggestions really help us improve the ways that we serve the nonprofit sector. And thanks everybody for your message in the chat. So this concludes the Nonprofit Candidate Forum for today. Thank you all for joining us. The recordings will be posted on our YouTube page, and we'll be sure to announce them as they become available. Hope to see you tomorrow for our next forum, and farewell, folks.